What's up?
Hey.
So had a great discussion with my friend here, Alex, and we wanted to summarize the key learning points as a preview to this great discussion. So we just want to go through this real quick, all right? And then we'll get into the actual podcast interview type thing. So, starting out, talked about this journey growing up on the East Side, right?
Mm-hmm.
The beginning of your hero's journey.
Mm-hmm. Introduction to challenge, beginning of hero's journey, yep.
And hip hop.
Hip hop, yeah.
Learning point there.
Yeah. Exercise and visualization.
Yeah.
That's what I'd consider that.
What's possible? These guys are dreaming about all kinds of different things, and that facilitated you dreaming a little bit, maybe, right?
That's right, yeah.
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 And then in school, 250 pounds. Health wasn't necessarily at the best, maybe not much awareness, but that was when you...
Well, yeah, I mean, that's when I think that's probably when I developed, like, a love for school, learning, and, knowledge and all that thirst for knowledge, and maybe honing the mental, maybe not so much the physical at 250 pounds, but the mental muscles.
Yeah, because now you're working on the physical part, or the health part of it.
Yeah, which, as it were, ties into it pretty integrally, but did not know that then.
Yeah. All right, and then we journey into this amazing story about growing up with a stepfather and then searching for your biological father.
Yes.
Yeah. Summary key learning point there.
Yeah, so summary key learning point there is that I think that people, you come into you come into the world, everyone comes in with whatever baggage, challenge, handicap, difficulty, but you just, you adjust and you make, you roll with it, right? And there's no real like ultimately limiting factor that can't be there's no weakness that can't be made into a strength.
Yeah. Me and my sister used to always say everyone's got their sob story.
Yeah.
Everyone comes to tell, but everyone's got their version of it. But you had some great adaptability there, and everyone, like, it is what it is, and you just got to roll with the punches and deal with it and try to make something good out of it,
Yeah, that adaptability.
Then your NV energy catastrophe, right? That was really exciting too.
Yeah, that was my lesson in humility. So
yeah, and then anything can happen at any time, right?
Anything
you can
can
lose
happen.
your job. You can
yeah, you can do whatever. No matter how good you are, you can fall. You can and it goes into that self-reliance lesson.
Yep. Having a backup plan or just being able to adapt, And then I love the little story about learning to say no to certain business opportunities because they didn't fit your moral character or something like that, values, right?
Yes, yeah, absolutely. You take opportunities when they come, but if there's obvious things that don't resonate with you, you got to be strong enough to say no to those.
Yep. And then investing. We talked about how investing is kind of like putting your energy in different places, or it can be seen like that, right?
Yeah. On the other side of that, saying no, it's saying yes. And if you can't get a yes, if you can't get an easy yes, sometimes you got to take, you got to go after something that's not obviously available to you until it is. So.
Yeah. And scrutinizing, what, like, not investing energy or considering not investing energy in things that aren't ecological or fit your values or something like that, right? I mean, even though you can make money in different ways, learning to say no and really scrutinizing these different opportunities.
It's got to tie into your ability to, fit what you want to, the world you want to see, like fit the change you seek.
Yeah, yep. And then finally, we just end with a little bit of basically once you found health, now that you're an adult, right, and you sought out the things you've been working on, everything about life's better, right? All the challenges that hit you now hit you differently than they did before. You have a different presence, right?
Yeah. The challenges hit you differently. You approach things differently. I just wish it were easier to. I just wish it were easier to convey how much better I am at everything.
It's what we try to convey to everybody. Like, it's like, like once you get this stuff figured out, you think you're going to get some weight loss, and you think that you're going to get some symptom improvement, but you don't really know. You don't have any idea how your life is going to change, especially if you're aware of it like you are. Like, you're very aware and appreciative of these different changes that have happened to you.
Yeah. Yeah, no doubt.
Cool. Yeah, all right. So enjoy the discussion.
Let's do it.
All right. So we are here with Alex, and I've never asked you how to say your last name. Fitzgerald?
Just the normal way to say it. It's
Okay.
spelled super weird with a J and an S, but Fitzgerrells, yeah.
Okay, cool. Fitzgerrells.
Fitzgerrells
At the end of it.
Yeah,
Okay,
that's
cool.
the end, yeah.
Well, I wanted to get you on here because, like, I think you're a great guy.
Thank you.
And the way that you found us was unique. I remember, I think the first time I saw you in person was at Dom DeMarco's, right? Was that the first little actual face-to-face thing that you came to?
That was the first face-to-face, but that was after.
Like you've been doing it for a little
That was
bit.
after we had the class. That, yeah, like the first one-on-one, like not classroom setting. Yeah.
Oh, so classroom setting. When was it? You went through one of the challenges or something? I can't remember.
The real food master class, like
Was it the huge one?
the big one? Yeah.
Oh, okay, yeah.
And
Where you
it-
had like 150 people in it or something like that.
I don't know if it was that big. It was mostly here, and then I don't know how big the virtual presence was, but yeah. So I don't know. Just timing worked out. Like end of 2019, I screwed up my back, and then I found you, and I was like, I need to make some changes. And then you were like, well, I'm starting a class January 8th or something like that. And I'm like,
okay.
oh,
Yeah.
okay.
Okay.
Online
yeah.
search and Google and all that stuff.
And the
that's-
first time we actually got to chat was when you came to like one of those social events. I was Dom DeMarco's.
I think so. Yeah.
Yeah, and then I just think you're a great guy. Anytime that I've ever put something out that I wanted some feedback on, like you've taken time to give me really good feedback. Like I'm like, holy moly, like you spent a lot of time on that, and so thoughtful. And I feel like we're on the same page with a lot of stuff. And at the same time, like you, in some ways, you've kind of kept me in check on some things, with making some suggestions, and then we talked about maybe just doing a couple of podcasts where we talked about some of these relatively, I don't know what you call it, controversial things or things that we feel like might be important. So I felt like it might be useful to get you on here and just do a podcast first, just getting to know you a little bit. So we want to get into that and just learn a little bit about what's behind Alex Fitzjerrells.
Yeah. Let's do it.
All right, cool. So, you told me earlier that you grew up on the East Side, and you felt like that was an interesting part of your life, right?
Yeah.
Okay, so
Absolutely.
Well, first of all, introduce yourself. Okay, we didn't even get there. Besides your name,
Okay, so yeah, all right. Alex Fitzjerrells, grew up in Vegas, born and raised, basically. I mean, like 99%. Like technically, I was born in Fountain Valley, California, and then a month after that, I was here. So I just kind of omit that from my story. But spent my whole life in Vegas. Traveled a lot, but home base was
I've met
Vegas.
your mom. So like, so she's from here too, or she was there? You're from there, and then y'all moved here.
From Chicago.
Oh wow,
From Chicago, yeah. So my family's from Chicago. I think my mom was 7 when they moved, so she's been out here for quite a while as well. And and she was one of 5. She's the oldest girl, but the 3rd child. And so interesting. Not a lot of Vegas, not that many Vegas locals from that far back, right? A lot more now, but
Yeah, you've seen the city change a lot, huh?
yeah, I've seen
Like,
the city
what time?
change a lot.
'Cause I've only been here since 2010.
It's changed a lot, and it's funny because you get some of the people who've been here forever, like even longer than me, and they're like, "Oh, this is terrible. It's changed too much." And I don't know. I like it. I think it's a growing city, and there's a lot of opportunity for sure with it. And I'm an engineer, mechanical engineer. I focus on high hazard equipment. So I worked in power plants. I still work in power plants, but I also work in cement plants and chemical plants and hospitals and pharmaceutical facilities and all kinds of anything where there's property, like equipment, buildings. I'll go in and I'll do consulting evaluations, reliability engineering consulting evaluations. So, yeah.
And then you have a team of people or something that helps you?
I'm part of a team, yeah. There's probably 10 of us or so for the region. So it's like Southern California, Southern Nevada, Arizona, New Mexico. I'm told Hawaii, but they never send me out to Hawaii.
You're like, where's my trip to Hawaii, man?
What's going on with Hawaii? Let's build some stuff so I can inspect it. But mostly it's interesting because a lot of people have come up in this. So it's an insurance company. That's what we do with insurance. And most of the people I work with have been, like out of college, they went and did this. So they're like very much insurance-minded people. So it's very interesting because they think of everything from like, how much is this going to cost the company? How much is this going to cost, right? So, but I come from industry, right? Like I come from people who actually need to maintain the stuff because they need to make power to provide to people, right? And so my perspective is a little different. So I try and like, while I have to like make sure the company's protected, I also try and give people useful advice. Like, here's how I've seen, people maintain these boilers or this.
Yeah, it's not just about the financial piece. It's about you're trying to actually like do some assessing and make some recommendations, right?
Yeah, yeah. The aim is to help people. If you're not like actually providing, actually being useful, like there's not much point. There's not much like meaning to be extracted out of your life, I think. So, yeah. So that's me.
I love that perspective. I get that from you too. So you're probably a good addition to the team because it's like bringing in that different perspective, and I'm sure the customers probably value that more than they would without it.
I think so. Yeah, it's definitely interesting. I meet a lot of cool people. Usually, yeah. It's first I hated it, but now it's kind of fun to be like, you go into a place and everybody hates the insurance guy, right? Just like at the power company that I worked at, everyone hates the power company.
It's almost like freaking having an auditor come in or something like that.
Yeah,
right?
yeah. But you come in and you show them like you're not a nuisance. You can actually provide value, and that's a cool realization to get people to have. So
cool.
Definitely, yeah.
Well, tell me about so you said you grew up on the east side. I'm not sure I even understand what that means. Is that over there by the casinos? What is the casino that's over there? Every time you hear east side.
Like East Side Cannery?
Yeah.
Is that what you're thinking?
Yeah.
Not too far from there, yeah. Like East Charleston, like past Lamb, past...
oh, wow, yeah.
And it's like not quite to Sloan, but getting out there. So
okay.
So the older parts of town and stuff. And
so then what was that like?
It was, like in general, it was I think it's gotten to be a more challenging part of the town, but at the time it was like it was a cool, in that there was a lot of variety and there was a lot of interesting experiences to have, right? Like it's not like the suburbia of some of the areas like Summerlin might be or Henderson might be of town where you have kind of like manicured lifestyles, and so it's kind of interesting to get rougher people and other working people and others all mixed in together. So it's kind of cool. And I don't know. I struggled. I remember. Let me. How do I put this? I remember one thing that really came out of that is I really resonated with like hip hop music. I mean, I just rap and all that stuff, and like there was something about the struggle and coming, like being aware of the odds against you and struggling, and like working hard towards something anyway. And so that was always an interesting thing to me.
You talking about as a rapper or like as a drug dealer or something like that? Or
not as a drug dealer. Well, just and I guess.
Because I'm thinking about some of the stuff I listened to back then too, and I feel like I'm very similar to you in that, like I resonate with things and the stories behind things. So like a lot of the music I listen to, a lot of people think is harsh and hard and all that, but I'm like, yeah, but if you know the reason and the words behind this and the story behind this, like it's like it totally changes your perspective. Is that what you're saying?
Yeah, I think so. Yeah, I mean, because if you look, some of the, and I like a lot of the hip hop rap of the '90s, but like you go back before that and some of the early '80s hip hop and rap, it was like a lot of people just getting this message out that had never been heard before, right? Like, was it Grandmaster Flash or something like that with like the message, right, coming out, in New York and just kind of like walking through a day in the life. Like I'm walking through the streets and basically navigating like people passed out, dying, like needles on the ground, like people in abhorrent poverty and all that stuff, and it's just like this is my reality, and I'm kind of trying to make something better, throughout it, regardless of it. So it's interesting to, and so that's always been something that's interesting to me, and I know that you're not it doesn't seem to me that you've made known a huge hip hop passion or anything, so figured that.
I don't know if I've made much music passion, but yeah, you're right. I mean, but I do. I'm like you. Like I really resonate with, like the hero's journey and the epic battles, and the just movies that are like that. I don't care if it's a cartoon or if it's a freaking Star Wars or So like I admire and respect all kind of music, especially if it has a good message behind it like that.
Sure.
Or if you can intuit a good message out of it.
Yeah, no doubt. So that's something that I've always been interested in, like a music that I always like love, going back to, and it's changed a little bit now, but a lot of music's changed. And maybe I'm getting into that phase where I'm just like, well, music was better then, but.
Oh no, you're already turning into one of those guys, man. You're not old enough to be like that.
But
yeah. Like, have you always been like that? You felt like you always had like a good heart. You've seen things from that perspective. You know what I mean?
Oh, I mean, I'd like to think I have a good heart. But yeah, I do love. Yeah, I do love the people. Like, I don't know. I don't like if you're talking about who you seek out in life, and I don't seek out people who are like me or who are fun necessarily. I seek out people who are interesting, I think, and who seem like they have had to work, right? Like for something. Have like one of my best friends is kind of grew up in a tiny island, Saipan, near Guam, and he kind of, like me, didn't grow up with a father, and so it was an interesting like upbringing, and he kind of came up and he just pushed to be this crazy, like impactful and I think successful person, and I think that shows now. And I think it's interesting because his mom came out for his wedding in October, and it's like his lifestyle is so kind of mind-blowingly different now, but it all kind of came from a struggle and like having to do without something, and kind of adjusting, right? Like making, maybe your leg's a little shorter, right? One leg's a little shorter than the others, and that doesn't mean you can't do something. You just kind of have to adjust and pay more attention to how you move, how you operate. And this is a very different example, but
no,
yeah,
but you're
you can
saying
achieve quite a bit.
Using those difficulties and, like you said, going without things,
Yeah.
To build off of it in some way.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, no doubt. So yeah.
That's good insights.
We moved around a lot too, so I've actually been in just about every part of the city
Yeah.
except for Henderson, I guess. So
yeah. Henderson's a world away. Feels like it. I have a client this afternoon. I have to go up to Anthem.
Oh man,
that's just yeah. I've lived a couple different places in Vegas, but you said when you were younger, like weren't you like overweight? Like
yeah,
like.
Yeah.
However, like you said, like, you weren't like 250 pounds or something like that?
I got to bring a picture, and this is a good one, because my uncle's a cop, and it was a funny one, because he was like fake arresting me, so he was in his uniform, he had his handcuffs and stuff, and I had my hands behind me.
Did you know it was fake?
Oh yeah,
Okay.
I was laughing, I wasn't taking it seriously, but I was just like this kid with my like hip hop chain or whatever. I was this big kid. I was probably like 250 in 6th grade or something, and 250 pounds, and he was arresting me, and I was just like, I'll have to bring it in. It's pretty funny, but that's kind of like a good reminder. That's kind of my, I don't know, memorable point where I think back to like when I was younger and stuff, and like the extreme large end, and kind of out of not focusing on my health. Not that I would have necessarily known to at 6th
right?
grade, but
right. You probably say the same thing. I'm like, man, I was actually talking to somebody just earlier. I was like, man, if we'd have found this when we were, but you're not. Even if it was put in front of you, like it's just not something that resonates with you. It's not even doesn't even register really. Right? Is that what you're saying?
Absolutely. Yeah. No, it's an interesting thing too, because I think the only way to really make like a lifelong version of this is to start a kid, right? Mm-hmm. Like start a kid at early. It doesn't
know any different.
It doesn't know any different.
Grows up in the environment, and
you make it the norm, and that's how they live and operate. And then if they as they grow up and they see like other people eating junk food or eating less like not eating like for the nutrient value and all that stuff. I think I think they'll be like, this is weird. Like this is the weird thing. This is what doesn't make sense, right?
Yeah.
Like versus kind of like all this false conditioning or false programming that we all have, that where a lot of people, at least off the jump, when I talk about SHT, say, oh, that's weird, that's unusual, and it's not. It's kind of the opposite. So
Yeah, but it kind of starts with the parents, Like if there was any chance or possibility of us hearing or learning that info, it wouldn't have been our decision. It would have been. That's kind of what we see with parents these days. It's like some families that come into this.
Yeah.
I mean, if they're lucky, they can get the kids on board, and.
Yeah. It's an interesting thing. I'm really excited.
About having a kid.
Yeah, I am. Yeah.
It's gonna be a badass little kid.
It's gonna be a little science experiment in a good way, right? Like I want to make, and I love this word, but my fiance Katie thinks it's weird, but
What?
I want to make a monster. Like I want this kid to be like formidable.
I totally get it.
Yeah.
Like how awesome can he be? And again, he wouldn't know any different,
Right.
Yeah.
So.
And I'll bump into some families every now and then that are like that. Like in this journey, I have a couple cohorts that had kids after, they found all this info, and their kids are just freaking amazing.
Yeah.
Like it's just and I'm thinking about my sister right now too. Like we had to do this kind of like an intervention with the family because their daughter had this rare autoimmune thing, and then once the whole family switched over, now they're all, they're just like the Robinsons kids or something, like super, ingenuitive, and just they're just very different. You can just tell, like being around other people. But
that's awesome. I see it myself. I can tell. Starting this, I was like, I'm doing this for my health, for my back. I can get into that a little bit later, but and it's changed from that to like I am mentally just clear. I am on it, and I love that. I love the mental acuity. I love I rock like people with some of the engineering evaluations I do. I'm not the fastest thinker necessarily. Like I don't have quick responses like I think my company wishes I had sometimes, but I'll go more in depth than anyone probably else in my team, maybe in my region. So and I just have fun with it. I like thinking deep. So.
Well, it's cool you notice that too, because I think that happens for a lot of us. We try to explain it like life is going to change for you, show up different. But like if you can actually sit and acknowledge, like, man, I do think different. Like I see the world different. Like I'm cooler and calmer, and maybe a little bit more introspective or something like that. I think that's so great.
Absolutely.
So what else? We had over on the east side. I remember you talking about how important it was, or how great it was getting a car, and like this sense of freedom you experienced or something from it that kind of changed things a little bit.
Yeah, that was a 1990.
What was your first car?
1993, Honda Prelude SI.
93. I was graduating high school.
It was a 12-year-old car.
Prelude SI, man. I remember those were awesome cars at the time, right?
Yeah.
Or we thought they were. I don't know.
At the time, yeah, they were. It was like, and I got it off this guy who couldn't drive it anymore. He was getting older or something. And I bought it with my own money because I was working at an apartment complex in maintenance. I've always been in maintenance, I guess. But bought it, outright, used. First year they had VTEC. I don't know if you remember what VTEC was, when the timing would change. So it was basically like a little turbocharger. After you got past 5,000 RPMs, it'd be like, and that was my freedom. So that was something that, when I had that little space, right, the little cockpit of the car, it's crazy how much it opens up for you. You have like...
How old were you?
I was 17.
Okay.
I was 17. And it's crazy, you just have this level of freedom, this ability, everything opens up. You have the ability to do anything, right? You have your own space, and it's kind of like...
Listen to your own music.
My own music. My parents didn't have a spare key to the car because they didn't buy it. I bought it, right? Like it was mine. You can't. It's mine.
Well, I think there's some freedom that comes from even if you're given a car, but like I can't even imagine like you bought your own car at that age,
Yeah. So not to say that it's like better or worse than any other one, but just some of those little things that fed into that freedom, right, was kind of impactful, and it's been something that I've just really prioritized like highly, like above all else. Like I
Right.
would prioritize freedom above wealth.
Freedom.
I would prioritize freedom above, most things. Like not that there shouldn't be rules and discipline, because there should be. But once you have like your set base rules, right?
Yeah, I was gonna say, what do you mean by freedom though? Like that you experience a sense of freedom then, but how does that translate into as an adult, like what you're talking about, that being so important?
I think what freedom means for me is not necessarily that you're able to do whatever you want, because I think that there's, I'm kind of, I guess I'd be in the camp of like a libertarian, in the sense that I believe that people should kind of be able to do whatever they want, kind of socially, as long as it doesn't, you can do whatever you want as long as it doesn't impact the freedom of someone else,
Right.
someone else's ability to live and
Like you check
thrive.
some ecology with it, and
Yeah.
you have the freedom to experiment and do different things, but
Yeah,
as long as it doesn't damage or hurt or impede on someone else's freedoms or something like that, right?
yeah. So I mean, if I want to go out, on, here's a good example. If you tie it into work, like if you have a 40-hour job, right, and a 40-hour week job, and I sometimes can consider that to be the case. I love the roles I've been in, or the companies I've been with, or the managers I've had that have said, if you get your 40 hours in, great. Like I don't care what you do in between, right? So if I have the freedom to go, ride a mountain bike in the morning beforehand, or work 12 hours one day, and so that I can go get off early and see a movie, the next, like, I think maybe a better word is autonomy.
I love that.
Autonomy, right? The freedom to handle your own responsibilities. So maybe that's the word I'm trying to say in place of freedom, right? I think that's something. I tell my boss this. I didn't realize it until I had a couple jobs. But when people say, hey, your job is to support these power plants. If they need something, you give it to them, right? And then I do it, and they see that, and they don't bother you. Like they don't. If they don't see you at the office, it's because you're at the plant, right? And they don't have to check up on you. I love that. I love
Or
that.
they know
freedom.
the job's getting done. It's like it's kind of very task-based versus just checking off a box as far as getting the hours in or something like that. You're showing results, so which leads to a little bit more autonomy. And
Absolutely.
like if you have a healthy relationship with that, it's like they should kind of like they should flow and support each other.
Absolutely,
So,
yeah. And it cascades like it. Yeah, if you get more freedom, and then you do well with it, you get more freedom. And then, in turn, the people you work with are, rely on you more, feel more comfortable. They feel like they're achieving more because they're, managing you, but they're just letting you run loose and take care of what is a high priority and all that stuff. So yeah, autonomy.
Yeah, it's almost like that autonomy too. If you're not like a good performer, it's going to highlight that as well, right?
Right. And it may not be as quick. Because it might be like, oh, you do like, let's say in a normal corporation, right? You got a yearly review, and you kind of, maybe it takes a year for that turnaround to show up, or that degradation in performance to show up. But I don't know. So on the tail end, you have to step out on a limb with someone, right? Like if you're gonna give them autonomy, you're gonna have to like start with a base level of trust that maybe hasn't been proven, but.
Yeah, but that's great leadership. You have to do that, because if you're not, you're micromanaging, and then I feel like leads to even worse results. Sometimes.
No doubt.
That's awesome.
No doubt.
And then, no, I can see how that's kind of shaped you. I mean, I get that from you, especially from some of our discussions. I think it just has to be balanced with a good work ethic and. Good intentions all around,
Yeah, absolutely. Because then the other part of that is you got to put some balance. Like I could be, you could, I like it. I like investing in certain things, but if you don't bound, like if you allow yourself to invest in anything that's profitable at the expense of other things, right? Like maybe resources, right, for the world. Maybe like for example, like an alcohol company or something. Do or like certain things like that profit when people are hurting, right? That there might have to be gambling, right? There might have to be some bounds. Do you necessarily want to, do you want to excel at something that's not, that's not like core to your being, or doesn't resonate with that core?
Even though it's giving you some other benefit. Like I've thought about that too. Like I'm finally getting to the point where I'm trying to do a little bit of investing, and I've thought about some companies that seem like they would be good choices, and that's the first question I asked. I was like, can I, with a clear conscience, like support something like this, even though it's supposed to or has the potential to grow? And so I'm right there with you.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
It has the potential to grow, but can it do it the right way, right? Will you be happy if you're associated with that company, and it does well? And I don't know, a lot of companies you cannot say that about. So
Now you mentioned before a little bit about like biological father, stepfather, something with that. Is that too personal to go into? Like, I'm sure that kind of shaped your life a little, right?
Yeah, big time. There's a.
I'm just curious.
Yeah, there's a. So I never met my biological father for years and years and years, and then I actually met him a few years ago. I'm 33. I was 29 when I met him, and so I grew up with a single mom for a long time. I did have a stepdad who was, my stepbrother's dad, and then there was a separation there, and so my mom had a third kid, so my sister, and so her current husband, my sister's dad, my stepdad, is such an impactful person in my life, and I don't know.
Your stepdad right now.
My stepdad,
Yeah, okay.
and it's only become more evident, honestly, since I met my biological father, because not to make sure I give the right amount of credit. My mom is my utmost like hero, right? And she raised me. She was mom and dad. She did it, she did it all, and that I don't want to take that away from her.
Tremendous amount of responsibility being
tremendous.
Like,
I had terrible allergies when I was a kid. I just remember this scene of my mom out in the summer pushing, mowing the grass when I should have been, right? And I'm thinking to myself, like,
because you couldn't because of your allergies?
Yeah, my allergy, like I had really bad allergies, and I was just like, man, this is not right. Like one day I should correct this. I should write this a little bit, So
I'm gonna come back and mow your lawn.
Yeah.
Many times as I can.
Yeah. Now we all have rocks in our yards, so I had to find a different way. But so that was an interesting thing. And then my stepdad is an awesome person because he's an example of someone who was amazing and didn't have to be. So it kind of makes him more. Makes it more meaningful because of that.
When you say didn't have to be, because you weren't like his biological kid or something like that?
Yeah, like he didn't have to put the effort in. Like he didn't have to be there to support my failures, right? Like or encourage me or give me guidance or help pay, help pay for college initially a little bit. He never had to do that. But he did. And those are, him and my mom, seeing those things are kind of, really impactful.
Now, did you appreciate that and notice all that as it was happening, or is it more reflecting back on it, looking at it right now?
Reflecting back on it. Yeah, I think.
But y'all obviously like had a good relationship throughout the majority of that, right? For him to.
Yeah, definitely. His relationship with my stepbrother, maybe not as super, but. But him and me are great, and it's funny because I feel like my sister and I are so similar. It's so crazy, even though different upbringings and stuff. And I think he's a big reason for that. So and then I met my biological father, and that was kind of something that was. I wouldn't say I avoided it or had any like real feelings about it. Like I remember when I was a kid, I used to think like, I think I read an article and I was like, they mentioned like the test tube babies, and I was like, oh, that's probably me. Like I just don't have a dad. Like no big deal, right? And that's.
So when did you know? When did you know that your stepfather was your stepfather? Like was it like super early on? Like.
Well, I mean, I was probably like it was probably sub 10, right? Like I was probably like 8 or something.
Oh, so okay, that's.
It was before. I think I met my stepdad when I was 14. So I mean, I knew he wasn't my dad, but I didn't know that I didn't know that I didn't have a dad.
Mm-hmm.
Or I thought I just didn't have a dad. I didn't know that I had one and didn't, know him until like I don't know, maybe 8 or something. But
how did you find him? Was it like something you initiated? Or?
Yeah, it was. Yeah. So when I finally came, when I got, and I'll tell you about this, but when I actually got forcefully separated from NV Energy, the power company I worked for, which was pretty tearful, I was rethinking a bunch of things in my life, and I was like, you know what? Like this guy who I wasn't angry at, I wasn't I didn't really have any negative or positive. I was just kind of neutral. I was just like, I don't know him, right? And that's probably, honestly, like looking back at the best way to go into it. Like I didn't expect anything from him. I didn't hate him or like feel like I lost out from some intent.
Like why didn't you though? Like if you don't mind me asking, you don't have to go into anything that feels appropriate. But I'm thinking about my experience with my parents. When they divorced.
Oh, did they? Okay.
Yeah. So I mean, he tried to maintain contact and took us on trips in the summers and
Oh wow.
So like.
How old were you?
4th grade.
4th grade.
Yeah.
Wow.
So what?
Yeah. Well, I mean.
Why wasn't there any connection there?
He was just never really a consideration. Like I didn't. Initially, it wasn't like he was brought up. There were no pictures of him. My family was pretty angry at him for not being in the picture, so they never brought him up, and so.
And you don't have any memory of him?
No, I think he met me when I was like a baby, like brand new, fresh, and
wow.
and that was it. So, but. So I mean, there was just not like a lot of feelings one way or the other. There wasn't. My mom did a great job, like of not, it wasn't like he should have been there and was necessary. He was just not there, and so it was kind of like that. But I guess at some point I realized this guy does exist, or in theory exists, right? Like maybe he's probably alive, right? It's always been something like friends have, like so like, do you ever want to meet your dad? Or I was like, I don't really need to. But then when I had some of this turbulence, this turmoil in my life, I was kind of like, you know what? Why don't I explore some of these avenues that I've never really let myself consider? So
that's got to be fascinating, just not growing up with them, not knowing them, and then having this curiosity, like I don't know how it would be to be in that situation.
Exactly. Like right. Yeah. Like how is he? Is he good? Is
do
he
you
bad?
want to seek it out? Yeah.
Yeah. Is he worthwhile? Is he derelict? You don't know. So.
Did you have hopes of what it would be like, or?
I tried not to. I tried to keep it really neutral. So I searched, and you do the blue pages online and the white pages online and all these searches, and I found.
Did you ask your mom to help? Like, could she have given you the?
She wouldn't. She couldn't have. No.
Okay.
No. And there's a lot of background to that, but she couldn't have, and I think I asked her. I think I told her I was looking, but I think there was like an unspoken agreement that it wasn't like her place to help. It was kind of my thing I needed to do, and just kind of figure that out. And if she'd had like an obvious like here's his phone number, I'm sure she would have done that, but that wasn't the case. They hadn't been in contact. So so I tried a lot of phone numbers, probably like a dozen, that I thought were him, and there's all these associates and all these connections and all these old addresses, and you're triangulating and pinpointing, and there's like this guy who's 52 who lived in Colorado and Las Vegas and Hawaii. That might be him. That was him, but none of the numbers were good. And I actually got some help from I had to skirt some things to actually finally get it, so I won't get into that. But I finally got his number, and it was a cell phone number. And I felt it, like I knew this was it, right?
Mm-hmm.
So I was like, okay, what am I gonna say? And I was like, I'm gonna keep it very straightforward, because who knows? Like, I'm gonna give him the opportunity. Like, if he doesn't want to know me, I don't want to know him, right? Like, I don't want to feel any anger or frustration or resentment toward this guy. So I called him, and after I figured out what I was gonna say.
Was it like super emotional before you did? Like as you're kind of gearing yourself up and stuff?
Yeah.
Man, that's crazy.
Yeah. I was like, I was in my house alone, and I lived by myself, and I was just like, what was crazy too is I think I was like, there was this emotional energy. I was like, I was calling my friends and arguing with them. I was like, are we even friends? I was having all this like riling up, like, and I was throwing that at people, unfairly so. But yeah, and then I finally got up the nerve and I called him. I was like, wow. And I called him and I said, I heard some, chatter in the background. I heard hello, and I heard some chatter in the background. He was a gathering, a party, or whatever. But I was like, hello, my name is Alex Fitzjerrells. Do you know who I am? And I didn't hear anything for a while, like a long time, like probably 15, 30 seconds. And I guess he'd kind of been so surprised that he'd just kind of like fallen back.
What?
Yeah. Against the wall at his friend's house, where they were having like a gathering or a party or something. And he was like, yes, yeah, I certainly do. And that kind of kicked it off, and it's been really positive. He wants to know me. He's held off for guilt reasons, other reasons. There were some legal reasons, I guess, that I didn't know about. But yeah. So he's very much into my life and into my success and my.
Oh wow, that's great.
Yeah, it's I'm as karma would have it, I'm his only kid. He never had another kid. He wanted to, but he never did.
Wow. So and when was this, like, that you did this?
I think
you say it was recently?
It was in April. It was about 3-4 years ago.
Okay,
It was
recently.
It was in April. So fairly recently in the scope of my life. But
Wow.
yeah, so I called him, and it's crazy.
I had no idea how that was going to turn out. Honestly. Because you'd mentioned it before, just a little bit in passing, and then as you were building up to that, I was just like, I had no idea what that. So I'm glad that was a positive experience.
Oh, it's so positive. And the way it shook out, like I could not be more grateful that I know him, but that I know him now, right? Versus when I was younger. Because he actually came from like generational wealth, I'd say. And so he did not have to struggle. And I think that is a defining characteristic of mine that I love, right? Like, so if I hadn't had that, if I'd had, I don't know, less challenge, I don't know,
Everything would be completely different, yeah, for sure.
and anyone can say that, right?
Yeah,
Like,
right,
you I love the way I am, and if it had been different, I wouldn't have been the same me, and so therefore this is better. We don't know, but I certainly love the characteristics that I have, and have developed because of my circumstances, and I'm grateful for those. So
Yeah,
I'm grateful.
and it's an epic story too, like your entire life journey, including that part of it.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. So so we talk now every week or two usually. He's got a couple homes, one in Vail, Colorado, one in Hawaii. And he goes back and forth for skiing and.
Did y'all have a long conversation on that first thing when he passed out, or was it like, hey, can I call you back after I get done with this little party I got going on here?
No, yeah, that would be. No, he was
I'm
like
thinking how I would have handled that. I'm like, oh, I need a breather. Can we like schedule a call for tomorrow or something?
he that took over the everything at the time. So after the pause, he was like, yes, I know who you are. Give me a minute. Let me go outside and let's talk. And so we talked for, I don't even know, probably like half an hour. It seemed like a long time.
Yeah.
Sent each other pictures, right? You see a picture.
Oh, like here's me now.
For the first, yeah. Well, I think I have like one picture of his from 29 years before, or maybe even longer. And Yeah. So then you see that picture, right? And then he has nothing, right? So he doesn't even have like a frame of reference. So I got, so we exchanged the pictures and we cried and
Wow, man. That's,
Yeah.
I mean, it makes me want to cry.
yeah, that was pretty cool.
Dang.
Yeah. We didn't meet for like, I don't know, 6 months after that until he was traveling between and stopped off in Vegas and we met at the Trump Tower actually, which was funny. Yeah, he's got a lovely wife and she works for United or maybe still does, maybe retiring, but yeah, it's a cool story, and and now actually I got the whole fun aspect of it because my mom and him haven't talked, and they still haven't talked, and I was like, Mom, would you ever want to meet him and like just kind of like acknowledge that, you know, I grew up like I did, and there was, you know, maybe some whatever strife that was there before, but she was like, I'll meet him at your wedding. Okay, well now I'm getting married, Mom, so can't back out.
Yeah. She was saying this before you met Katie, or how long have you been with Katie?
I've been with Katie since, I'm going to say, February of 2018.
So you were you with her then?
I was with her, I was with Katie
but
when
hadn't talked about marriage yet.
Yeah,
Right?
yeah.
So she's like, oh, when do you get married? Hey, Mom, guess what?
Yeah.
I proposed. You know what that means, right?
Exactly, yeah. That's the interesting, that's probably the most, that's probably the thing I'm most nervous about, so, for the wedding, just because I wonder how that's going to go. And
Oh, that'd be great.
yeah.
Sounds like he's got a good heart. Your mom's got a great heart, you know?
Yeah, I think it should. It definitely should. So.
Well, that's an exciting story there, man. Shoot.
Yeah,
It would
thank
be.
you.
So, what about, you'd mentioned like a little bit of some controversy around your job. Like, did you say you got...
Yeah, I got fired.
Fired?
I got fired from NV Energy. I was working. It's actually kind of funny because I always remember starting in, you know, as a power plant engineer. I support big rotating equipment, high energy piping systems, stuff that can just, you know, really do some damage, kill some people if it fails, right? And so high hazard, high energy stuff. Thankless job, right? Because nobody likes anybody who works at the power company, but it was kind of nice to be that, you know, you feel like an undercover kind of.
Well, because most of our experiences with the billing associated with the power, I'm sure, right? You know what goes on behind the scenes to make all that happen.
And what it takes to make that happen is not, you know, easy. There's tough decisions that have to be made, and you gotta weigh things, and it's like, well, okay, you know, well, this is our best judgment, but you know, you're never 100% confident in anything, right? So you have to like use your best engineer. You have to use your skills and your knowledge and your experience and make the best decisions you have, and make sure stuff doesn't blow up.
Have you ever been involved in decisions? Yeah, that you're like, you know, man, I hope this goes right. I hope this goes the right way.
Yeah.
Yeah. You know, and it could have led to what? Some kind of a failure, power outage, grid, what?
Yeah. No, they put me in some terrible positions. They're like, you know, new engineer, doesn't know anything. All the management's going home for the weekend. We're gonna leave you in charge of this boiler repair. Let us know how it goes. Okay, great. I know some stuff. I can you know, meander my way through. But you know, when it comes to like challenging decisions, I started updating people on daily emails, and I was like, okay, here's where I'm at. Here's what we came across. Here's what I think the best plan of action is. Let me know what you think. Silence. No response. People are home. Not even
On
paying
vacation.
attention. Yeah. And so I'm like, okay, well, I send another one. Here's what I'm going to do unless I receive any response, right? Still no response. Okay, great. I've covered my butt a little bit. I'm going to have to, you know, make some decisions. There was a crack in a pipe that we fixed. But as we were fixing it, we found another one. This one was just a little one. At the time, I didn't know this, but if you find something like that, you find a pressure vessel defect, something that is affecting the ability of that to hold 2,400 psi of pressure, right, of steam, of high energy steam, you have to fix it. Well, in my mind, this is a small crack. It'll last a couple months. We're in the middle of summer, right? So it's like high demand. This is the super peak. People need their, you know, power to run ACs and all that stuff. And yeah, and so we got a
And
timeline.
so to fix that, you would have had to shut some things down or something like that.
We would have to take more time. Like currently, we had till Monday at 6 a.m. And I was supposed to return it. And so I was like, okay, well this is fine because once we get out of the busy season, the shoulder months, we can shut down, fix it, right? And it'll be okay. And so I remember it was like, and I had already been working like 12 hours, but it was probably like 6 p.m. on Sunday, and my boss was like, hey, how's it going? And I was like, well, I've been updating you. Like, it's been going exactly how I've said it's been going. And he's like, you found a crack and you're not fixing it? You can't do that. You have to bring him back. And so I remember because I was on the floor, just laying down like, oh my God, like how much is this going to cost, right? And to give an idea, it's like $300,000 a day. Like if I kept that plant down, $300,000 every day would cost that much. And so
cost who that much?
The company and the ratepayers. So they're in effect, basically, it costs the company. The company doesn't have that power. They have to buy it from California, from somewhere else, at a much higher rate, peak prices, right? So that amount is $300,000. Does that directly translate to customers? Not really, but like within the next year, that amount gets transferred, and so it's like you're trying to protect customers and rates and all that stuff. So
trying to protect the company, which protects the customers.
That's a fair way of saying it. Yeah, because there's still a bottom line, and that's interesting. But yeah, so I remember because like I was laying on the floor, crying, and I was like, oh crap, this is gonna cost us so much money, and this is all my fault, right? At the time, this was me thinking that. Now I realize like I tried, like I didn't know, but I did the best.
No matter
I could.
what, it would have cost money because there was a crack that had to be repaired, right?
Yeah. So then I have to call like Roughnecks, like all these welders, like pipe fitters, the guy, like those are my favorite kind of guys now. But at the time, I'm like calling someone on a Sunday night, and I'm like, hey, I know you just left the facility, but can you come back because we have to fix this other thing? And they're like, okay, a little, union, Sundays, really good pay, triple pay, or something. But so they weren't that upset. But I had to get them back. We had to work through the night. And actually, through their help, through those guys, we got back at 6 a.m. We released it, started back up, and we actually still got it done. But I just remember I was like, so, I was terrified. I was shaken. I was getting like reassured by senior people as I was like, I messed this up, and it was kind of crazy. And there's a lot of those experiences, and from that, I ended up being pretty good at what I did. And then because of this technicality and this stupid thing that happened, and they had to let me go. And they tried
Not related to that?
Not related to that. They fought it. It went up to like the president at the time, tried to bypass it, but a rule is a rule, and they couldn't do that. Actually, they've changed the rules since then.
And you would have been okay.
I would have been okay. So it's kind of dumb, but yeah. So then I got fired, and that sucked because that was tearful. That was my manager and I just kind of like in a glass room, meeting room with people in the halls walking by, just just crying, and like this is
Both of you guys, because he didn't want to lose you.
Yeah. A couple other people too, but so that was a rough one. But
now on that whole crack thing though, like what looking back on it, like because it sounds like you did everything that you could to cover your bases and keep people updated and informed. It was something that had to be fixed anyway, right? So
yeah,
I mean, no matter what, it would have cost something somehow, right? Is there any do you have any learnings from that, like where you look back and you're like, okay, if I encounter something else like that again, because I know your mind kind of works like with protocols and systems and stuff, right? So
yeah.
Is it,
yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
Well, I think I realized that you can't just be, you can't just use what I can infer, like what I can take from that crack is that it's not going to fail, right? But it doesn't matter sometimes what you think if the law says if you find something like this, you fix it. I didn't know the law even. So yeah, it's like, I guess, what do I take away from that? Know when to ask for help. Know when to demand help, maybe. Because yeah, you can't be an expert at anything. And that's probably a good, segue to, health in general and how I met you, because I'd been trying to be healthy. I'd probably been succeeding, more wins than losses, but, at some point you realize, and I injured my back, and that's what kind of was the trigger point for me searching and then finding you and SHT, that you can't do it all. And so sometimes you got people who, when people have an expertise, when people know things and there's they put their passion into something, I don't know, trust their opinion, like let them teach you, let them learn. And if no one's offering it, you might have to demand it. But
yeah, especially if you're not seeing the results that you want. Like, I guess that would be in any area, things that any of us are not good at, like having the courage, which sometimes I think it takes a lot of courage to ask for help. Sometimes, especially people like us that might be, feel like we're really self-reliant,
Yeah.
and we can figure stuff out. Like, I'm intelligent enough to figure this out,
Yeah, exactly.
No matter what it is. But yeah, I think it does take a lot of courage. But if I hear you right, you're saying, just don't be afraid to ask for help, unless it's something that you feel pretty confident with, Sometimes you have that hint of, what do you call it, like a little glimpse of like, uncomfortableness.
Yeah.
Like I could, but it's like maybe that's your indicator to, it's okay to ask for help.
It is, yeah. I do think you should seek out that discomfort, right? Like you should seek out a little bit of that, because that's where you're growing. But yeah, and that's the challenge. Like there's a point where it's too much, and you're just like, okay, well, this is more than I can handle. This is more than I can chew, and this puts, this might negatively affect others if it's too much for me, right? Like if it's too much for me and I don't get it together in time, in the time I need to, then
that whole ecology thing, and yeah, there's definitely a balance there. You had said something though before too about like, so you're saying when to ask for help, but you also said something about how you learned when to say no, or something, right? Didn't you? Oh, that was when it was there was some decisions for some job or some income or something like that didn't align with right?
Yeah.
So this is almost the flip side of that, right?
Yeah.
Or, I don't know.
Yeah. Well, okay. So after I had my emotional breakdown, figured out I should call my biological father. After I got fired from NV Energy, I wallowed in self-pity for probably a couple months, 2-3 months.
That was a long time.
It's a long time to wallow.
Sounds exhausting.
You kind of go off the deep end a little bit there. I had some trips planned too, like some travel trips, and I still went on them. So there wasn't like I was wallowing. I was just like, I'm still gonna do this. I promised myself I would, and so I'm still gonna, So it wasn't all wallowing, but it was quite a while. I wasn't where I didn't have a clear path forward.
Yeah. Now in your wallowing, do you turn to drinking or anything like that?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Definitely some drinking.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. But also soul searching, right? Like, making my argument for why should I pursue this guy who had a hand in me being born, but I don't know, right? So, I figured some things out. But yeah, I had an acquaintance that I used to work with approach me, and he said that he wanted to start a business, and he wanted to see if I'd be interested in starting it with him. He had a business, but the business he envisioned was kind of right up my alley with what I did. I got a lot of focus background-wise on like metallurgy, like how materials are formed and what kind of properties they have, like corrosion, like rust and heat resistance and those sorts of things. You have to use these different materials in the boilers, and I got really good at that just because I'd spent so much time on it. And he wanted to start a testing company for the inspection of those boilers, and then there was kind of a cool synthesis into what he did, because he's a rope access company, a rope access technician company holder, and so rope access is the way I describe it is like people.
It's like bunging or rappelling down into big pipes or something like that.
Kinda. I mean, it's basically what, you know, when kids are rock climbers and they want to grow up and be have a real job, a lot of times what they'll switch over to is industrial rope access. So they got ropes, they got the same harnesses as rock climbing, and they're doing work off ropes, right? And so you get to these areas that are really tough to access, and all you get, instead of having a scaffolding that costs $50,000-$100,000 to get to the top of something, you can just throw a rope over it, rappel down. Obviously, have backup lines and redundancies, but yeah. And so the idea was, we'll do the inspections. We'll have the expertise of being able to rappel off of this stuff. Get scale these boilers, and so there's this massive cost savings. In theory, I'm pretty good at inspecting these things, and I know exactly what I'm looking for. So you get cost savings, you get really good quality results, and it's boom, it's a great business model, right? So other things go into that, but yeah. But then at some point, and part of it's I like big stuff, big power plant stuff, and big, things that are making useful things for people.
Mm-hmm. And have the potential to blow up, maybe.
Maybe
there's an excitement factor in there, probably. I can tell.
Yeah, there is. There's that. That's true. I won't deny that. But we started getting into some stuff that wasn't savory, and there were some things that I didn't agree with from a business practice standpoint. And it didn't seem like, okay, this is, at first it was like, okay, this is just how business is done. I'm new to business from the independent side, right? Mm-hmm. So maybe this is just how it works. But then at some point you realize this is probably not right. So I had to kind of step away from that, because I think it would have been a great business.
Did it turn out to be a great business?
Mm-hmm. It had just started to, and what would fulfill the majority of that business would be the stuff that was getting less and less, which was getting more unsettling, I guess. Mm-hmm. So I kind of decided, we were in a meeting, actually. We walked out of a big meeting with a big client here in Vegas, one of the big resorts, actually, and it went well. I mean, it was like, we're gonna give you a ton of business. This went so well. We're gonna do this all over town. And we walked out, and I was like, yeah, I can't do this. I can't do this. This is not gonna. This is no adverse judgment against you. I cannot. This is not my thing. I can't do it. So yeah, we split up. And then I jumped out of the pot, or out of the pan and into the fire with an inspection company that nationally, internationally even, but only a couple of countries outside the U.S. inspected the specialty boilers I'd always had familiarity with. And that was kind of crazy. Her work ethic was something else, and it was just us two.
Now, on that saying the no thing, I'm just sitting here thinking,
okay.
That's challenging to do, right? But how does it feel afterwards, right? Like you felt like it was something that you had to do, or had to not do. Had to say no to, right?
Yeah. No, it goes back to the freedom thing. I think.
Yeah, and aligning with your values, which maybe didn't have. I don't know if you had that much conscious thought around the value piece of it, but it's like.
I think I did, actually. Yeah. No, I think I did. I mean, it was like. You have to kind of pick the two best. I like picking the two best sides of an argument, right? Like, why should I continue doing this, and why should I not? Mm-hmm. Why should I continue doing this? Obviously, I'll do well. There's obviously opportunity. This could be a very fun and interesting thing to do, but why shouldn't I do it? I think I'd probably have to give up part of myself to do it, to continue doing it. And so, and is that, among the rules I built in my life, I enjoy the freedom, autonomy that I get, but does this take me out of that? And I think, the answer was, yeah.
Well, maybe not even just the autonomy, if I'm hearing you right. Like there's some almost like a moral, ethical thing in there, right?
Yeah.
And have you found that the healthier you get, the clearer those decisions get? Because I'm trying to put myself in some different situations I've had throughout my life, and I've noticed the healthier I get, the easier it is to say no to things that I know I should say no to. Or something along those lines, you know what I mean?
Oh, 100%. Yeah. I mean,
that's what, we were talking about before we started about the whole clarity and something along those lines. And I'm just realizing part of this right now.
Yeah.
It's almost like it helps facilitate clearer, better decision making.
Much better.
Somewhat,
Yeah, actually, because I've been trying to pinpoint. So something I've noticed in myself that I've been really proud of is my ability to say no to things, and I've been trying to pinpoint it, and I realized probably when that started being something I could do and was good at, right, was like, yeah, when I started SHT, and maybe through the initial stages it was a focus specifically on, like, getting what is good, down, ingrained in your brain, and then then I think it slowly kind of morphed into being able to say no to things, and it's so cool to be able to say no. It's so empowering.
That's why I asked, like, how did it feel after? Because there's some kind of satisfaction that comes out of saying, like, I felt like I did the right thing there, even though, like, many people in that situation may have made a different choice and rationalized it for whatever reason, right?
Yeah.
But it's like, that's fascinating, right? How the healthier you get, the clearer you get, and the easier it is to make decisions that align with.
Yeah.
It's almost like we all, as I listen to you tell your story, I feel like so many people resonate with this epic hero's journey if they look at their life in retrospect, right? Like hardships and learnings and all this stuff, and you had this hint of, like, this version of yourself in there that was, had this capacity to make these different kinds of decisions, and then it blossoms,
Yes.
the healthier you get,
Yes. Yeah. Because I've been able to say no in the past, but that one I agonized over that.
Yeah.
Even in before the meeting, I was thinking about it, and I was like, what's going to happen? I don't know that I want to do this, but yeah, now it's not like something I have to agonize over. If I don't want to do it, or if it doesn't make sense to me, it's a no.
Yeah.
And it's like, and then that frees you up to do what you want, what's important, what means something to you.
Yeah, and you already know no matter what happens, you're going to be fine. You know what I mean? Like, you've been through enough that you've been fired, and like
I've been fired, I've been sued, I've been I've been blacklisted.
And you probably handle, like, that crack pipe situation a little bit better and differently now, not just because you've been through something like that too, but that's fascinating.
Yeah, no, and that's it. And so, yeah, and it's so much. It's so much. Besides the empowerment, it's the clarity, because when you say no, you kind of define. A lot of people, I've heard people say, you don't really start to formalize your, like, true kind of specific self until you're like 30 or something like that. I mean, it could vary quite a bit, but I think, you spend a lot of your younger years, especially, as we, I think generationally, people are getting mature older. They're taking longer to get mature. But yeah, when you say no to something, you're kind of defining a little bit of yourself, and so you're kind of slowly building that picture as to the whole of who you are, and it's nice, because then you can, you're not there's benefit to being, like, interested in everything and wanting and being curious and exploring everything, and I've done that, and I still enjoy doing that. I love traveling, but there's also something nice about knowing who you are, and then being able to leverage that to be like, here's what I want to be, right? Like, in life, I want to, I look forward to what I've learned. I want to be a good parent. I want to do good for the world in whatever form and ability I have to do so, and it's so cool.
Well, and it sounds like what you're saying is, like, you have a vision for yourself, like, it's like you've thought about, like, how you want to be, the kind of person you want to be, how you want to show up, these different areas of your life, or life categories, or something like that.
Yeah.
And that helps too.
Yeah. Yeah, so I don't know. That's it. It's the hero's journey. I mean, you take all this stuff and throw it into your being, I guess, and that's what shakes out. So you have, you know, there's a reason why like Gilgamesh, the Epic of Gilgamesh, is stayed the test of time from, you know, Sumerian cultures, thousands of years, because that resonates with us, that story, right? And so if you if I'd have been raised differently, like with my biological father and all that, would I have, you know, you sometimes you see people who, you know, parents fix things for them, and it's like I needed to go through that stuff. That's made me who I am. I'm proud of who I am. I'm gonna continue being me. So
well, you would have had a different hero's journey. That's all it would have been. You know, just would have
that's true.
A different version of it. But no, I hear what you're saying.
100% back to that argument. Like, who would I have been, and it might have been better. I don't know. It's always we're biased. We're flawed and biased as humans.
It's easy to look back in retrospect and say, oh yeah, this led to this and this led to this, and that would be, you know, because I say the same thing all the freaking time. Like, the reason I'm here and the reason I feel like I continue to like do better and better with my private coaching things is because of my previous failures and experiences, and you know, but doesn't mean it wouldn't have been as good or different or better, and you know, things have been a little bit different. So I don't know, but that's yeah, I love all that. That's really good insights, man. It's almost like too when you say. It feels like with what you're saying, if you say yes to things, sometimes it's harder to peel that back or to come back from that. But if you say no, it gives you a little bit of flexibility and breathing room, especially if you have some not uncertainty, but almost like a gut feeling or an intuition, you know, that doesn't seem right, doesn't feel right, or something like that. Like it gives you the ability to pause and pivot.
Yeah.
Versus like committing to something that kind of feels different. Although, you know, we'd always say like embrace uncertainty and chase your dreams, and you know, things like you've said, like you like to dabble in a lot of different things. But like if you have this, you know, gut feeling about something, like it's okay to say no. No gives you a little bit more flexibility.
It does.
Almost counterintuitive, you know.
Counterintuitively. It really is. And it's not, and a no is not like a no forever.
Mm-hmm. Exactly. It's just a not now.
Yeah, yeah. Or not in the terms that you've defined them. Maybe like a version of that. But it's powerful. Yeah.
It's good stuff. Let's pause for a second because I just want to make sure Dude, this is good shit. I think this is great.
Yeah.
Don't you?
Cool. Yeah.
Yeah, I love it. I love it.
I feel like I'm talking about myself too much, but I know that's
no. This is about you. But I mean, we at every one of those junctures, we've kind of come and said, you know, had some positive learnings from it. So I think the final thing I want to go into is just ask you about investing. Then we'll just transition into like a little bit of like, you know, a day in the life and, you know, some nutrition shit maybe. I don't know. And then I'll just cut it right there because we're at, what is that? That's I'll just have to remember it's around 68 minutes or something like that. Or is there anything else that you wanted to bring up with all that kind of previous stuff?
No, that's good.
All right. Cool. All right, so I do want to learn a little bit about investing from you. Like, what's your thoughts on investing? We had just a little chit chat, and you said Bitcoin was fascinating. Like, is that like a side passion?
Yeah, well, I love it to be my main passion, but I need to prove to my fiance that I can. If I can prove to my fiance, here's our deal. If I can do better with investing than I do at work for like 3 consecutive years, then maybe I can, you know, get away from the actual work. But the thing that comes with companies is health benefits, right? And there's certain things that, I mean, I've been without them, right? Like I'm cool with living on my own, being self-reliant. But I think Katie's a little bit more traditional in that you like to have that safety net.
Well, especially if you're gonna have a kid.
And
right.
Yeah,
family.
absolutely. Yeah. Well, and not to say that, you know, it's all me, because she works for NV Energy currently.
Oh,
she works in the same department I worked in. So all the people that she complains about, I'm like, yeah, that guy's a jerk or something. But
is that how y'all met?
Yeah, I came after I got fired. So this is a good like I was valued enough that even after I got fired, a couple months after that, they hired me back as a contractor because that was the only way they could get me and still follow the rules.
Oh wow! So that has like almost like a happy ending.
It was kind of cool.
They got you back in there.
Yeah. She was my counterpart. So she was doing quality control oversight for big, basically like an engine rebuild in car terms, right? So like you take it, you're down for a month or two, rebuilding everything. You have to oversee the contractors, make sure they're not screwing anything up. She would be there during the day, so 6 to 6, and I'd be there at night, 6 p.m. to 6 a.m. So I'd be coming and dragging, and every time I came in, and she'd come in all fresh, and I don't know what she saw in me, because I was definitely not fully conscious and lucid at those times, but yeah, so her boss actually was like, you should take her out, and so we went out on a Jeep, little back road drive, and that was our first date. And
that's cool.
Yeah.
Who has a Jeep?
She does. She's got the Wrangler, yeah.
Oh, nice.
2016.
Oh, I gotta tell you when we do trail rides then.
Yeah.
Because we're always thinking, man, who can we invite on our trail rides? Because me and Lombard go on trail rides all the time, so.
Oh yeah, definitely. And she'd love that. Like she's.
And camping too?
Oh, yeah, 100%.
Dude, yeah.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, all those, all the above, all the outdoorsy stuff. Those BLM, those BLM leave no trace spots where you don't have to be by a bunch of people and you can just kind of be like alone in vast spaces. That's our thing. But yeah, so when I let's see, I've always been interested in technology and making the world, I want to make the world better. And one way that I recently, kind of like a few years ago, discovered to do it was, rather than try and put like my energy into, I can leverage. I've worked in like a high performance field, right? So I've done okay financially. So I can still work hard, but then I can also take some of what I've been able to accrue and put that towards stuff that I believe in, right? So it's like the money is energy kind of concept. Yeah. So I found that
it's
really
actually, it is the energy of today's world. I mean, I don't know. There was a Bitcoin podcast I listened to. I forget what it was called, and they just went through this whole concept of money is energy. Maybe Chris Masterson talked about it on his peak prosperity thing a little bit.
He may have, he may have. And then there's like Michael Saylor. You've heard of him. I'm sure he's the big. He's like, man, he is pounding that table everywhere. But
is he the guy that wrote the Bitcoin Standard?
No, that was Siphus
Amadeus. Oh, that's right.
Siphon Amadeus.
Okay.
Amadeus. But he was, I think he's Turkish or something, which is, Turkey's doing terribly. Their money, they're like going down really bad, like Greece was 10 years ago. But so there's something to be said about money being, you can make the world a better place, and use what you've built, right, in the form of money to do it, right? So Bitcoin's awesome. Like I think it's worth noting that there's like Bitcoin and there's everything else.
Right.
And
there's
Bitcoin,
nothing.
And nothing, not like the scalability, the ability to cap like the number that'll be out there. Everything, the whole thing is just.
Well, and the non-human involvement, as far as like you can't manipulate it.
Not able to be manipulated. Yeah, it's decentralized. You got all these node operators, and and maybe it could have been corrupted way early on, but not now.
It's got way too much behind it now.
The ability, what you would need to do to get 51% of everyone operating that network to agree to attack itself and therefore reduce its own value, like impossible. Like it's just not going to happen. The incentives aren't there. So so
I do like what you're saying about like you can choose where to put your money, what you could see as like investing or contributing to something that you somewhat believe in. So is that kind of part of your strategy? Is like you invest in things that are companies or businesses or index funds maybe? I don't know.
Yeah, not so much index funds. Those are like I started reading this book called.
Can you handle my portfolio? That's what I want to know.
You might. My portfolio is risky, so I mean, if you're okay with that, like that's what I'm after. Like I read this book called, I think it's Angel, but it's by an angel investor, and I love their theory. Like, if you could bet, like let's say you had $100,000 and you could bet $1,000 on 100 companies. It's kind of gambling in the most overarching form. But if you do the research on each one, then they're informed decisions. And let's say there's 100 different companies with 100 different technologies, and you believe in the potential of these things, right? And you put $1,000 in each one, right? 99 of them could fail, but as long as one of them does well, and that's a lot of what happens in like the tech-centric companies that you leverage technology to make better things, right? Bio stuff right now, and some of the diseases they're able to cure. Like, obviously, you don't want to modify stuff just to modify stuff, but some of the things that they can make to cure diseases and cure communicable things is so crazy powerful. So I believe in that, and actually, it's really stupid. The rules out there, the Securities and Exchange Commission won't let you. You're an idiot unless you make $200,000 a year as a single person, $300,000 a year as a couple at a minimum, or you have $1 million net worth in your account. If you have money, then you can be trusted to invest your money in private companies, right? If you don't, then
You have to do the publicly traded companies only, right? Or
yeah,
something like
you're
that.
not allowed.
Yeah.
But there's a rule recently, 2020. They changed it, and they said, okay, well, if you work for a security, like a advisor firm, or if you work for a trading firm, and you can prove that you know what you're talking about, there's some tests that you can take,
Almost
and
like
you can
taking
prove.
the bar exam to get into like
Yeah.
investing in private companies.
Yeah. So I was like, all right, well, I'll do that. So I took that test, and so it actually took me 2 tries, because the first one, it's more involved than you think, and it's very, it's not fun language. It's like, you have to learn about bonds and treasury bills and T-notes and all this stuff, and so it's not like engaging, but I got it on the second time, and now I'm like, okay, cool. So now I can invest in private companies, right? I can invest in.
What do you have, a separate little portal in like at Vanguard or something like that, or like how do you invest in those companies?
It's the Wild West. It's like I mean, I got into this one syndicate, and basically they're like, hey, we got this company. They do these specific types of like real food, healthy snacks.
That's what I would be investing in. That biodynamic, agriculture, regenerative agriculture,
Yeah,
food,
100%.
water, shelter,
or like efficiency gains and some of those things. Yeah, and they're like, okay, if you want in, let us know in 2 days and wire us $25,000.
Oh wow.
So I've done that. Like, I've had to do things like that where it's like, okay, I mean, I believe in the person. I followed the person. I researched them. I researched the company. I don't have a ton of time to, put as much as I'd like, but I think there's value, or I think there's potential in it. So there's some, those are probably my riskiest ones by far. Those are probably the least likely to actually help, come to fruition. But hey, maybe they'll develop a technology that won't make the business do well, but maybe someone else can use as a jumping point to do something.
To build another business or something.
Yeah. So.
I love that. I love the, I mean, you could translate that to like just your personal daily spending. Investing in good food for yourself, a gym membership. Like a lot of people hesitate to like put more money towards these things. But as we've said today, a lot of times the results that you get from this have these synergistic effects on the rest of your life. And maybe it's a good thing to put money towards things that further your development, the furthering of your fellow human beings, and something along those lines. What do you think about that?
Yeah, absolutely. Because, I mean, it could go back to that whole idea of like, okay, I could try really hard and do very well. I could probably work for a company that's all about profits and all that stuff, and I could make them money and make myself money in the process potentially, but why like what's it all for, I guess. And so it's helping,
Yeah.
having those investments in yourself, right, in your health and your fitness, and committing to showing up and doing whatever it is, like a walk some days for me, or a full-on workout if I'm feeling it, right, like go and do something intense. That showing up is also helping build and define that kind of purpose and pursuit, and helps even if I didn't get the body composition benefits and the mental benefits, I think I'd be showing up for myself, and that'd be rewarding probably in and of itself.
Yeah.
Even if it
For
didn't
sure.
come with all these cool, awesome side benefits. But
Fringe benefits, yeah. That's a good way to look at things, scrutinizing like, your moment-to-moment decisions, your spending and things like that, towards like, is this contributing to my better good or to the good of others around me? And like we mentioned before, the ecology, considerations, is it going to be damaging in some way?
yeah,
Because at some point you do have to ask yourself, like, what is the point? What is the point of what we're doing?
yeah,
Right?
yeah.
And I think that's become like more important now than ever, considering this weird situation that we're in. It's like, I don't know. I love that idea of money is energy.
Yeah,
You know?
yeah. And that's sorry.
No,
That's so the private investing came first. The Bitcoin for me came later, and I wish it had been the other way around. But yeah, if you have, we have all this crazy stuff that's been unlocked, and with the internet and with the development of technology, but we never brought money along. And now we're like, okay, what can we do with this, right? Like, you can have, I don't know, there's so many possibilities. You can have the DAOs, right? The decentralized autonomous organizations that can regulate things in a way that we wouldn't normally. You got some body organizing or regulating something, they're subject to the normal human corruption.
yeah, you wouldn't have to worry about the corruption piece of it.
Yeah.
It's like it's on autopilot.
Yeah. There are rules. They have to follow those rules. They can't skirt them. They can't filibuster. They can't bypass. They can't make new ones. They can't, new laws that benefit them. They can't use the information. They can't use the information to better themselves, like some of these political people are buying companies before things are announced and all that stuff. It's crazy. So it's cool. There's so much potential for it, and it's so infallible, like to a level that's never been really seen before. Yeah, and we could go kind of very high level, but
Well, this is. I think we can have some other. Like, this is. Why I want to like have some other conversations with you. Some other podcasts or whatever, where we can talk about some of this stuff. Because it's like, what if you could take that to like a health, like the food industry and health habits level or something like that. Like some kind of a system that didn't have the ability to be corrupted, but like but then it's like who makes the rules? Where does it start? How do it's like but there's such a potential for the human evolution, based on some of these things that we're learning from insights we're getting from technology and things like Bitcoin and crypto and stuff. But I'm sure we're not the first people thinking about that.
Probably not, yeah. but hey, if you can be in the early stages and be a part of it, then yeah. Above all else, it's fulfilling, right? And it's like I'm making an impact in a way that I feel is good. So.
Yeah.